Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Let's talk some college basketball. The Sweet 16 is here. Our next guest is a contributor for the Center Hub Basketball. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew S. Hoops 2. That's at Andrew S. Hoops 2. He's nice enough to join us today. Let's talk to Andrew Schaeffer. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, guys. How we doing? Thanks for having me on.
We're doing terrific. All right, let's just start with tonight's games. Texas, Purdue, Iowa, Nebraska, Arkansas, Arizona, Illinois, Houston. What's the best game tonight?
You know, I really think it's Arizona and Arkansas. You know, I'm very curious to see how Darius Acuff, who's obviously been incredible, right? He's been a top 5 NBA draft pick, how he's going to handle the size and length of Arizona, right? You think about Krivas at the rim. You think about Koa Pete, Braxton Burries, Jaden Bradley. And Arizona defensively has been so good this year and so consistent. The Big 12 is a great league. They've been the best team in that league. And I'm just curious to see how Darius Acuff handles all that length. Can he get by them? Yes, he can get by them. How does he finish at the rim? Can he also get some secondary help from guys like Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond, and Malik Ewan? So I think that game is the one that intrigues me the most. It's also the first time really in a long time that a lot of us think of John Calipari not really having any pressure. Right, the pressure to me is all on Arizona, on Tommy Lloyd. He has struggled in the second weekend in the NCAA tournament in his career. So I'm very curious to see how Tommy Lloyd handles that pressure. And the fact that John Calipari has no pressure is a unique situation for everybody.
How many of these 1 seeds left, Arizona, Duke, and Michigan, how many do you think make it to the Final Four?
You know, it's a great question. You know, I honestly think it's going to be all 3. The sport, obviously, there's a lot of discussion about chalkiness and all of that. But I think Duke has the toughest road. You know, when you look at playing Rick Pitino and St. John's and the toughness they bring with Zuby Ejiofor, and then you think about potentially playing UConn, who's won 2 of the last 3 national titles, or Tom Izzo, whose name is instead of March, right? They call it January, February, Izzo, April. I think Duke's got a really tough road, but with Cam Boozer, who's been a winner, I think they're going to get there. With Michigan, you know, it's going to come. The game against Alabama tomorrow is really going to come down to, can they limit Alabama on the perimeter? Because Alabama has struggled against teams with size. LeBaron Philon's been excellent for Alabama this year. So I think that's going to be a huge thing for them. And then playing Iowa State, who may or may not have Joshua Jefferson, or Tennessee, I think Michigan should get through. And Arizona, like I said before, you know, to me, they've been the most consistent team all season. I think Purdue is under a lot of pressure because they were the preseason number 1, and the Final Four is 2 hours away from where they are in Indianapolis. So I think Purdue's under a lot of pressure, but I do like all 3 to advance to the Final Four.
You know, we look at the changes in college basketball, and Cam Boozer's maybe the prohibitive favorite to be the college player of the year and has great size. But you look at who's remaining, and it is still guys like Darius Acuff, who you mentioned, Kingston Fleming's still around, LeBaron Philon's still around. Like, this is still a point guard-driven sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And guards win games in the NCAA tournament, right? I mean, you mentioned Darius Acuff. Kid's going to be a top 5 player. Kingston Fleming could be a top 5 pick as well. You know, it's interesting because when you look at some of the other teams, like Duke's backcourt hasn't really done much. Like, Tatum Boozer stepped in for Caleb Foster and done a nice job, but Duke has predominantly been known for their size, right? Same thing with UConn. Silas Emery's been in and out of the lineup with injury, you know, but they're relying a lot on Tarris Reed. right? St. John's is relying a ton on Zuby Ejiofor. I agree with you. It's a guard-driven sport right now, and you need an elite point guard to be in the discussion to win a national championship. And a lot of these teams have that. Even Elliot Cadeau at Michigan has had a great year. Jaden Bradley at Arizona has had a great year. So I agree with you. The guard play obviously plays a factor, but I do think a lot of these teams also have a lot of physicality and size, and I think a lot of teams are doubling down on that as well.
Any thoughts on Will Wade going back to LSU?
You know, it's not surprising given the information that was released the last couple of days, but I think, you know, a month ago, I don't think any of us could have predicted this. I think it's shocking, honestly, the fact that he's going back there. They hired Heath Schroyer, who hired him at McNeese, you know, after he had the FBI fallout with LSU. You know, look, I feel bad for NC State. You know, they hired a guy who I think they thought, you know, believed that they could challenge North Carolina and Duke. And now with him going back to LSU, I just wonder where NC State pivots. You know, do they go after Josh Schertz at St. Louis? Do they go after Justin Gainey, the associate head coach at Tennessee? I'm very curious to see where NC State goes. For LSU, obviously, it's great. You know, he's a clear upgrade, in my opinion, over Matt McMahon, who was let go today. But the SEC is a tough league. I mean, they have a lot of good programs, a lot of good coaches, but the SEC also has a lot of money. And I think it's interesting because I think some people will evaluate it as well. NC State may not have the resources to compete with Carolina and Duke, but at the end of the day, it's Carolina and Duke. That mountain is always going to be hard to climb no matter who you are at NC State. But, yeah, it's definitely surprising, but we'll see how Will Wade handles it at LSU. And honestly, this could be a blessing for NC State.
We did not see the cream of the crop lining up to take Kentucky's job last time it came open, and we saw a local guy, Mark Pope, end up in the spot. North Carolina's open. Kansas might open. Are there going to be coaches lining up to try and get those jobs? And if so, which one's the better job?
Yeah, I do think there's going to be a lot of big names for both jobs. I think quality of life has now become more of a factor in taking a job than it's ever been. You know, for North Carolina, obviously Hubert Davis didn't really have the success I think they were all hoping for. I think you're going to see names like Billy Donovan potentially be in the mix, who's the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. And let's face it, the Bulls have had their issues over the years, and Billy's obviously had great success in college. I think that's the name that will come up. I think Tommy Lloyd at Arizona is a name that will come up. Remember, Henry Visar played for him at Arizona, who's currently on North Carolina's roster. Caleb Love also played for Tommy Lloyd, who has ties there. Obviously, he's in the NBA now. I think Dusty May, I'm sure we'll get a phone call. He's done a great job at Michigan, you know, had some Southeast ties to the state of Florida, what he did at Florida Atlantic. You know, I think those names you will see in the mix. I think Mark Byington could potentially be a sleeper name if all those guys say no. I think he's a guy they could call as well at Vanderbilt, done a great job there. And I think you'll see similar names at Kansas. I think it will be Tommy Lloyd. I think Grant McCaslin's name will certainly come up in that carousel if Kansas does open, if Bill Self does retire. I think McCaslin, Otzelberger, Lloyd, maybe Ben McCollum's name comes up. You know, if Iowa continues on this run, I'd be a little hesitant with McCollum because he's never really built a roster, you know, outside of his guys from Drake. I'd be a little hesitant there. But I do think you're going to see major names at both of these programs because at the end of the day, they're blue blood jobs. They don't come open often. I know Kentucky was a bit of a different scenario with Mark Pope taking the job, but I don't think Carolina doesn't have any in-house guys. Like, they're not going to hire Jerry Stackhouse. They're not going to hire Kenny Smith. You know, they're not going to hire those guys. Kansas could hire Jock Vaughn. I just don't think it's not going to win a press conference hiring Jock Vaughn, and both of those schools need to win the press conference, in my opinion.
So we now cover the Big 12 a lot, as you would imagine, with Utah and BYU being our local schools that we talk about a lot. And conference expansion, of course, has been a huge topic around here for a very long time. Agree or disagree with this statement? Conference expansion or conference shift or whatever you want to say has really been good for the Big 12 in basketball, even more so than football.
Oh, I think it's great for basketball. I think it's been a great thing to have brands like Houston come in from the American. I think a lot of people thought Houston was going to struggle, and look what Kelvin Sampson's done, right? BYU, you guys know, they made a coaching change with Kevin Young. It was a bit of a risk, but it's worked out. AJ DeBanza was awesome this year. It's unfortunate Richie Saunders got hurt, but I think it's great. I think the Big 12 was the best league this year, especially at the top. Arizona, national championship contender. Iowa State's a national championship contender. Houston could very well win the national championship this year. Kansas, I think if they hire the right coach, if Bill Self does retire, they're going to be back. Texas Tech had a great run, over the last few years with Chris Beard and Grant McCasland. So I think it's been great for basketball. I know football is predominantly the sport in the Big 12. And even, basketball has been great for them, though. Scott Drew has done a great job there. Obviously, this year it didn't go as well. And I think, again, Jared Calhoun is now at Cincinnati. You guys know him from Utah State. I think that's really going to help. Randy Bennett's now at Arizona State. So I think the Big 12 really benefited from conference expansion or realignment in basketball.
I look at the games tonight. We already mentioned them. And you look at the games tomorrow night and you think, wow, this is really loaded. This is great. This is going to be fun to watch. It's all kind of major, big names. We've also just been talking about, Jared Calhoun was winning at Utah State, was doing a terrific job, and it really almost doesn't make sense to stay. A, he went closer to home. B, there's way more money. And C, they just don't reward teams like Utah State anymore. So while the product this weekend is A+, it does seem like overall, we are hurting some of these potential Cinderella teams that used to make runs.
No, I agree. The gap has widened, right? With money, transfer portal, there's really no rules. And I think it's really hurt a conference like the Mountain West, right? With San Diego State, Utah State, New Mexico. These are great mid-major programs that I think a lot of people know and know their tradition. And Utah State's had great tradition. I mean, look at the coaches they've put out there. Danny Sprinkle, Ryan Odom, now Jared Calhoun. I would expect their hire to be a great one in this next cycle. So I think it's good for the fans, I think, of Power 5 programs and who are like traditionalists. That these big brand names are winning everything. But I do think the tournament would have benefited from having a Cinderella story like a High Point or something like that where like a smaller school gets to the Sweet 16. But I do think the gap is certainly widening, and I don't see it closing anytime soon.
Houston's ability to make a run with Florida out of the way. A tough one with Illinois tonight. How do you see that going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the door is open. I agree that Houston, I think, was the biggest beneficiary this weekend with Florida being knocked out. Listen, they're stylistically, they're a little different, right? Houston typically plays rock fights. They want to play through the glass and through the defensive end of the floor. When I know defensively this year they haven't really been what they normally are, but they have Kingston Flemings, who's going to be great, Emmanuel Sharp, JoJo Tugler. Chris Sinak, I think, is a huge key for them. He's got to show up on the glass. Illinois wants to get up and down, right? You think about Keaton Wagler and Boswell and Mirkovic. They want to get up and down. They want to take tons of threes. To me, this game is all about pace. If Houston can get this game slowed down in the half court, I like Houston tonight. I'm a big believer in Kelvin Sampson. I think this is probably going to be the year that he gets it done. He's got so much talent in that room, and honestly, he's due to win a national championship. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Houston wins the game. But it would not surprise me if Illinois, hits 12 threes and they win it, because of their offensive capability. But I think it's going to be a battle of style. Just how the game is officiated too is going to be a huge key. But I like Houston tonight.
Andrew, thank you so much for jumping on with us, man. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the tournament.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew Schaeffer, he's a contributor for the Center Hub Basketball. You can follow him online at Andrew S. Hoops 2.
If you're a Jazz fan and you want to start getting an early look at the draft, tonight is a great night for you because, as you mentioned, Darius Acuff, who's going to be selected right there where the Jazz are picking, is playing against Arizona, maybe his best opponent so far this season, in all honesty, even with the SEC schedule. And then tonight's game, the late game with Kingston Flemings, the point guard at Houston, and Wagler, the guard, kind of combo guard at Illinois, is a great matchup. Houston probably has a better ability to slow it down than Illinois does to speed it up. That's kind of generally the rule of thumb.
We've talked about this before, I suppose, but I was asking about Big 12 expansion. You think the Big 12 loses Texas and Oklahoma, which in football is fairly devastating.
Mm-hmm.
In basketball, is two decent programs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Texas has punched below its weight for
sure.
the most part. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma has had its periods of success or whatever, but still nothing all that special. You take them out and plug in, just think about it, at least this year, plug in Arizona and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an upgrade. And then BYU has held its own since getting into the league. I certainly would argue, You look at some other programs like Utah, Arizona State probably has a little bit of a ways to go. I don't know if UCF's doing anything for you. Cincinnati, maybe they can take a next step with Calhoun. I don't know. But if you look at just that swap out Texas and Oklahoma, swap in Houston and Arizona, that's a huge upgrade.
Kelvin Sampson is sounding the alarm at Houston that they don't have enough money to continue to bring in good players. He's always found a way to win, and I suspect because of the talent in their backyard, they will find a way to continue to win.
Okay, at what point do we stop listening to that?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like, Houston's going to be fine. I think he's doing this as a ploy to get leverage to get more money for his team.
Every school. I had this criticism for universities in general, but it's certainly true with coaches. If you go to somebody in university administration and say, hey, do you want to build another building? How many of them say no?
Yeah, right.
We act like there's some line of resources like, oh, this will be enough. It's never enough. So
Correct.
At what point do we stop listening to like old Dilly Dilly down there saying, I just need a very rich person to cut a check? I mean, I don't know. The fundraising aspect of it, I think, is just, I could never be a coach just for that reason alone.
So despite what he has said, I do think we're going to continue to see Houston operate at an extremely high level. Arizona, even if they lose their head coach to either Kansas or UNC, is going to continue to compete at a high level. And
he tamped that down, by the way.
We'll see.
Because there were some people out there saying he had taken the job yesterday.
Yeah, that would be quick. But maybe. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're probably a couple of weeks out, or maybe we're a night out. If they lose tonight, we'll see what the decision is at Arizona. But they're not going anywhere. And honestly, we'll see who replaces Bill Self, whether it's this year or next year, whenever Bill Self decides to hang it up. Kansas has really fallen off. They're really now they always punched way above their weight, probably because they were cheating. Recently, they've punched below their reputation, but I would imagine Kansas bounced back. And that means then you still have Arizona, Kansas, Houston, BYU's trying to make a big name for themselves. Texas Tech is usually pretty good. This conference is not going anywhere.
You know how they raised Rick Majerus' sweater into the rafters or whatever? Do you think they raise Bill Self's toop up there when he's done? You think they take that
as
tube
he's
up
about
there?
to walk out? Someone gets a little chip clip, and puts it on the back of his hair, and literally as he walks out the building, it just stays behind.
Bill, we're going to need that. We're hoisting it to the rafters. It's your signature. I don't know. I about said clothing item,
Look
but that
up there,
doesn't make any
son.
sense. That's
When
Bill
I was
Self's
young,
tube.
I used to watch Bill Self hiding under that tube.
Man
Coaching
could
Kansas
really
with some
coach.
really high highs.
Roy Williams couldn't get us there, and then that tube came to town.
Yeah.
Man, took us to the promised land.
Sean Miller's sweaty shirts. Just hang those up. Just if you sit under it, you're getting dripped on all day.
You notice
Self's toupee.
nobody has really liked going to the more casual attire than Sean Miller. Because he now wears those pullovers that are really hard to sweat through.
Hard to sweat through.
Yeah,
like hide it well.
A dress shirt and a suit. You're sweating right through that thing almost immediately. He gets off the bus and he sweat through that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill Self's tube needs to go into the rafters. That's the best way to honor that guy. It is funny to me. You will say the old guard is leaving now because they can't cheat anymore, and maybe there is some truth to that. But I do have empathy, or not empathy, I guess sympathy, for some of these geezers, because really the sport has just totally changed. I mean, the job has just totally changed. If you're telling me that Toop doesn't want to beg for money 24/7 and he's just going to go disappear on an island, I don't blame him one bit.
I agree. And then there is still this weird thing of like, look at the coaches who are still around. Like, it's just all so many of the old dudes still.
And maybe Bill Self falls into this, but they're all sick people. Like, we can agree that Rick Pitino is a sick person. Correct. He's like 89 and he's still running around like a crazy person. I heard, to salvage a serious take, I heard Steve Cleveland talking about it, how he and Rick Pitino are actually not that far apart in age. And I guess Coach wasn't specifically talking about Rick Pitino, but Coach Cleveland did go into, his life and how he lives as a non-coach. And you know what? I got to tell you, sounds pretty dang good. But Steve Cleveland, who actually does want to spend time with his grandchildren and do those sorts of things, I don't find a sick person. I think Rick Pitino is a sick person that could never leave.
Yeah.
Like Joe Paterno could never leave.
Right. Oh, there are a lot of coaches who don't know how to say goodbye.
They just can't do it because they're addicted to the, I would argue attention, but I mean, there's probably some other things.
The money, the power, the winning.
Addicted to all this stuff.
Legacy. Yeah, I mean, Tom Izzo said this latest win might have given him 2 more years. It's like,
yeah, they go up
been here since 1990, something like that. Crazy.
They go up to Rick Pitino and they say, "Hey, the job has changed. You now need to swallow every bit of integrity that you have and walk up to that rich guy and beg him for some money." Mm-hmm. And Rick Pitino looks right square at that person in the face and says, "Good news for you. I never had any integrity."
Yeah, right. I used to ask for...
Excuse me.
I've always been asking for money.
Well, I go get on my knees and beg this person for money. I'll be right back with that check.
Yeah.
I still get to strut up and down the sidelines and be on TV, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
All right.
Is it still about me? Cool. I'll ask for money behind the scenes.
Stay tuned. Spring football is underway at the U. There is some news coming from there. And I think Coach Scalley missed an opportunity. We'll talk about that next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Do you love rom-coms? Do you wish you could talk about Christmas movies year-round? Then we have the perfect podcast for you, Hallmarkies Podcast. Throughout the year, we cover all things romance, holiday, and Hallmark, including recaps of every Hallmark show, like When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. You can also get loads of bonus content covering shows like Bridgerton, Sweet Magnolias, and Just Like That. We are an all-female group of friends who are passionate for these shows and movies and give our honest opinions as well as gush over what we love so much. But that's not all. Every Monday, there are interviews with all your favorite actors, writers, directors, and more. Check out Hallmarkies Podcast on all your podcast providers and on YouTube. That's Hallmarkies Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Did you know fluoride is not available in Utah water systems? And fluoride supplements work best from 6 months to 16 years old. A healthy smile isn't just about teeth. It's about health and confidence. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. What do you think about this cover? Because I really like the original of this song.
I think this cover did what a good cover should, which is it kind of reintroduced people to the original. Like, this was a good Michael song, obviously, but it got a second life out of this song.
And I'm fine with a good punk cover. I just don't know if I like this one. Are you familiar with Me First and the Gimme Gimmes? Like,
yeah.
A zillion great punk covers.
Yeah.
Like, the punk cover ruled the world there for a hot second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if I like that one. Maybe it's because I like the original so much. Whatever. Ben, 2 things we teased to pay off. There was some news out of spring camp yesterday for Utah, and we can get to the newsy part first. And then I thought there was a missed opportunity. We can get to that next. Let's play. Here's Coach Morgan Scalley talking about the spring game.
No spring game. You know, I wanted the extra practice. We've got enough new in the system that I really want to take advantage of that 15 practice, but we are going to open things up. We've already opened things up more to you guys, and also going to do that to our fans a little bit. And obviously on the 18th, we're going to have a fan day so that they can meet the new players and there can be engagement with our new guys and new staff. So we're doing all we can to play both sides, right?
I don't have any problem with it. Now, traditionally, I always favor spring games over no spring games. You should always have more, give more to the fans, et cetera, et cetera. He has countered it, as he said, and he seems to be standing by his word by making practice more available. Now, practice isn't necessarily available to fans in the same way that a spring game would be, but at least you're getting some coverage through the media more so than what Witt
Well, it sounded like he's going to open up some stuff to the fans.
And then he will do some more stuff to the fans, though I think fans like to go and watch the spring game, though.
I think you can go watch practice. I think that's what he's saying. I think they're going to open up stuff to the fan. Not all of it, but right. I think they're going to open up
today.
Stuff to the fans. I think canceling the spring game is lame. I understand what he's saying. I believe it's appropriate to counterbalance it. If you're going to do it in today's day and age, then figure out a way to make it special, because the spring game is something for the fans. No coach ever in the history of college football likes the spring game. They just don't.
Right.
It's not productive. It's giving your guys a chance to get hurt, all those things we've heard coaches complain about in the past, but it's a way for fans to get involved in the program at a time when fans aren't involved in football. And I think the fans like that. And actually, I think the program benefits from it. So I Yeah, I think it's kind of lame. I think it's kind of lame that there's kind of a title and a legacy to the game too, with the Forever 22 thing. But if provide a little trade at least.
Yeah.
I mean, at least a way to give your fans an idea and meeting the players and all those things. And I certainly understand you want an extra practice if everything is so new. All of that, I'm not saying any of that is fake, but
the biggest red flag for me with coaches currently is the paranoid coach. The coach who feels like...
what Bronco did last year is way more offensive to me than this.
Agreed. And Witt started
with
to do
Utah
it.
State.
Witt put it up, he started
Witt's
with...
the OG?
Yeah, I mean, he started putting up the black plastic over the fences around and then closed out practice
don't say
altogether.
he did it because that's implying that he did it. He made the baseball team do it.
Sure.
So let's be honest here.
Witt made the baseball team hide his practices.
Yes, he did.
So that type of paranoia, and I see it in basketball, I see it, I don't think is ever beneficial for anybody, specifically the fans, and it is far less helpful for the teams than I think they believe.
So, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But I do think it is kind of lame to cancel the spring ball or spring game.
Totally fair.
So, yeah, we'll see if he gets an extra productive practice out of it, and we'll see what the access to the fans looks like. So if you're going to give and trade, then that's fine. It's certainly much better than shutting the whole thing down. All right, now let's get to our next clip, and I'll explain why I think Morgan might have missed an opportunity here. All right, here's Coach Morgan Scalley talking about Kyle Whittingham.
I have a great relationship with Kyle Whittingham, and honestly, I love him. I wish him and that program nothing but success, but my focus is on our program. There has been a lot of focus on, and I understand the why, but man, do we have an incredible team right here and an amazing opportunity, and I need to devote all my time and energy to those guys.
Now, for those of you out there who think it's productive to take the high road, I completely disagree. He should have gone. He should be lobbing grenades at Coach Witt. Coach Witt should be on the bulletin board. The whole team needs to go show it for Coach Witt. That's what I think. I think he should be selling it. He left every one of you guys behind. Did you get a call about Michigan? I didn't think so. Let's go stick it to this guy.
He needs to blow up the bridge to prevent more kids from the state of Utah going to Michigan, because we know as Witt recruits, as much as he's raving about his 5-star running back and that he never got that at Utah or rarely got that at Utah, Witt doesn't know anybody. We have learned that. Witt doesn't know anybody on the planet outside of his very small circle. So when he has to hit the recruiting trail next year, he's coming back to Salt Lake City and he's wearing a bright, blue and maize? He's wearing the bright yellow M on his hat and on his chest, and he's going to say, you've really never been recruited to Michigan before. You've never been recruited to the top of the Big Ten. This is your chance. So, yes, Morgan Scalley can create that as the enemy, and you're the traitor if you leave.
In all seriousness, he's going to do that to stick it to Morgan Scalley personally. We don't know a lot about Morgan's role in the Exodus, what shall henceforth be known as the Exodus. We really don't. We haven't seen any reporting on that. We haven't really seen any FOIA on that. Was he just an innocent bystander? I kind of doubt it. Did you catch the Kyle Whittingham press conference where he was asked about a quote from Jay Hill, and Kyle assumed it was a quote from Morgan Scalley and got prickly about it?
Oh, I did not.
Yeah, because Jay Hill had said, man, we could dig this up, I suppose. Apologies, I should have given a heads up. But Jay Hill had said in a podcast that they run the most complicated defense in the country.
Uh-huh.
Now, I guess, or a storyline in Michigan is that the team can't learn the defense because it's too complicated, so are they going to have to
dumb it down?
So the reporter asked Coach Witt, said, hey, your defensive coordinator said you run the most complicated defense in the country. What do you think about that? And Coach Witt goes, Scalley said that? And he goes, I don't know, and then explains the coaching tree and says, well, it all stems to Fred Whittingham and everybody runs theirs a little bit different. I don't know what he's doing there, but us here, we're running a simplified.
When it turns out
it was Jay Hill,
who he just hired.
But his mind automatically went to, oh, that Scalley's talking trash? Huh? So I don't know. I would be curious to know what. Now, I would not expect anything, all kidding aside, different from Morgan other than taking the high road. It's probably the most productive thing to do. And in his character in general. But I do wonder. I mean, at least part of the story had to be Morgan being tired of waiting, or the university tired of having Morgan waiting. I guess you could look at it that way. But that has to be part of the story that we have not been told.
I'm with you. I've made no bones about it. I think Kyle Whittingham should still be the head coach at the University of Utah if he wants to. He's a bird in the hand. He wins. You know what you're getting, but you're getting something that operates at a very high level. Morgan, what I like about him is he does not have that paranoia. Whit really has the paranoia, and it's gotten worse every single year he's been around. So I won't miss that. I wonder how long until fans sour on the happy guy, because that does happen too. And I honestly hope Morgan doesn't start to match it, because there are a lot of optimistic coaches that come in that lose that energy. Part of it because losing saps it out of you, the job saps it out of you, the pressure sap it out of you. But some of it I think is because the fans also do. The fans get sour. The fans do not want to see, unfortunately, Morgan buddying up to Kalani Sitake, especially if Utah loses this game this year.
I think it all has to do with winning and losing. I don't think any of that honestly matters. Coach Kalani himself was his normal happy-go-lucky self until he had a bad season. Right. And then all of a sudden it was, okay, nose to the grindstone. Right. And then when they've had good seasons, he's back to being Kalani again. I think it all has to do, listen, if Utah loses, if the program slips and they start losing, it doesn't matter what his attitude is. He's not going to continue coaching. Again, all that Utah man stuff goes all out the window depending on winning or losing. Where you and I differ is I don't think Kyle Whittingham should have been able to dictate his own terms to stay. I don't think he walks on water. I don't know if it's the right decision or not, but the university has the right to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And Morgan's role in that, and here's where I'll defend him, is perfectly legitimate. If Morgan has other options, and he's been assured in some way, shape, or form that the Utah job could be his, and he's figuring out the best way to negotiate that with an athletic director who has the power to do it, good on him. And it would have been fine if Utah would have said, we're keeping Coach Whit, go Coach Stanford. Good on them, too. Mm-hmm. That's not the decision that they made. I've got no issue with Morgan if he did say, hey, I'm going to go unless you're going to do this.
Yeah, fully agree.
No problem with it at all. And I think Morgan can do just as good a job as Kyle Whittingham. I do. I believe that.
I don't think he's going to be as good day one. How would he be? How are you as good a coach as a guy who's been doing it for 20 years? And the truth is you just won't be. You haven't been in all those positions yet. And maybe you have success the first year. What does the second year and the third year look like? We don't know. Those are all things that are yet to be determined. But I'm with you. Utah has the right to make the wrong decision. And I think they made the wrong decision, but that is absolutely their choice. I mean, Whit works for the program, and if the program wants to move on, they get to. And look, again, for our jobs, I hope Utah stays relevant. I hope they win at a higher level. I hope the BYU-Utah rivalry continues to get better and better and better. I hope they improve one another and can win the Big 12. But we will see. I'm not sure a lot of teams get better when they lose their Hall of Fame head coach. It traditionally doesn't work out.
Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Did you know dental pain is the top reason children miss school? Dental disease in children is almost entirely preventable. Good habits start early with brushing, regular dental visits, and fluoride protection. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got it made Jake's and also loves his tie guy. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We want to remind you about our friends at J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. Sweet 16 action gets started tonight at 5:10 on CBS between Texas and Purdue. Your team, Purdue.
We'll see how they do.
The 5:30 game is 9 seed Iowa and 4 seed Nebraska on TBS/True TV. Then the night games, 4 seed Arkansas, 1 seed Arizona on CBS. And then the nightcap, on TBS and True TV, 3 seed Illinois and 2 seed Houston. All 4 of those games are interesting for a variety of reasons, but the night games are the better ones.
Those last 2 are going to be great. Those are big time games, so fun to watch those.
Part of me wants to see the Hoiberg nepotism duo beat Iowa, but
yeah,
because they've never. Can you believe that Nebraska never won an NCAA tournament game
until this year? Now they've won 2,
and it'd be pretty cool to see them go to the Sweet 16,
the Elite 8. They're already
or
in the
Elite
Sweet
8.
16.
Yeah, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. We have not talked about opening day at all for baseball. Can you believe it looks like another bad year for the Pirates? Paul Skeens, their ace, their superstar, maybe the best pitcher in baseball, did not get out of the first inning. He's given up 5 runs.
Listen.
It'd be tough to be a Pirates fan.
I liked baseball growing up. I liked the game, all the stuff. There's always been way too many games in baseball, and I don't understand how people can get fired up for game 1.
I get the opening day is like a thing. But yeah, man, it's a true marathon. And now they're starting it early. This is a week or 2 earlier than usual.
I mean, you're already spitting hot Pirates takes at me. I absolutely do not care in the slightest. I found it somewhat interesting that Netflix is diving into the Major League Baseball world, which they aired the game last night. But they're only doing like 3 games total for the whole year.
Because of the amount of games, like you're talking about, how much product there actually is to be had. You know, Apple was doing Friday night baseball for a while. Now Netflix is getting in. Certainly, it seems like maybe baseball is becoming not even the proving grounds, but like the testing ground for: do we want to do live sports? Do we want to get into this? What can we do differently, or what kind of
that's all
reviews
football.
Can we get?
They're all down the road on all of that.
But football, you don't test it out. You know what I mean? Like the investment is so high, it must be relatively cheap to buy baseball games. Certainly compared to getting Christmas in the NFL.
Oh yeah, Major League Baseball is basically paying the mouse to be on Sunday night ESPN again. I mean, yeah, but because inventory is so vast. They have so much to sell. I would be shocked if they're getting tons and tons of money.
So I think when they start to, dabble, yes, Netflix certainly has already shown that they want to get involved with the NFL, and it's hard to get into just because everybody wants it. Apple hasn't, but they said, well, let's try soccer, let's try baseball, and then maybe the next time these contracts come up, they'll make a big push for whatever the next sport is.
Well, the strength and weakness of baseball is they're not relying on the TV money. Now, maybe they're missing some of the windfall that, say, the NBA is getting, but I mean, if you, how many home games are there, Ben? 81? Think about this. If you sell 30,000 tickets a game to 81 home games, I mean, that is
astronomical.
It is. It's the magic of baseball. Why it's baseball money that you can pay so much to all these is because the gate is just bananas. And they're not necessarily relying on TV. But that's the downside because the TV money has really gotten crazy in some other sports, but not baseball.
I'm trying to pull up average attendance. This is just, let me see if I can get it for this year. Because I know people are probably like, well, 30,000. They're not selling 30,000.
Depends on who you are.
Okay,
the Dodgers
worst team, the Athletics. Now, the Athletics were playing in a minor league
they don't count.
Stadium.
Eliminate them.
Tampa Bay, the same thing. Half their stadium got torn up. But like even the worst team, so my White Sox involved, they're the 4th worst, lowest average. Miami, the 3rd lowest. Miami's 15,000 a night. I mean, that's a lot of NBA seasons. Like a lot of NBA teams are probably about 15,000 a night.
The Hawks aren't drawing 15,000
right.
a night.
The White Sox are getting 18,000. That's a sold-out Delta Center.
Yep.
18,000 is about the same. And then you're there for 3 hours slamming dogs and beers. Like
who's at the top?
The Dodgers, no surprise, 50,000 tickets on average.
And let me tell you, those aren't $5 tickets.
No, and then San Diego, the Yankees, Phillies, Mets, Cubs.
But what are the thousands, not the clubs?
49, 42, 42, 41, 39, 37, 36, 35. I mean, you have to
so
get
my
down
30
to
is actually about the median.
15, which would be the median, 15 and 16, because there's 30 teams in baseball. So 15 and 16 are right there at 30,000 and 29.7. Like, you're right on. The average is probably just about 30,000 for 81 home games. Yeah, it's a lot. Goes a really long way.
That's a lot.
Right. And then on top of it, you do get TV money. You're not loaded with TV money the way, maybe the NBA is more dependent on it, or the NFL is more dependent on it, but you're doing well with your TV money on top of that.
Well, NFL's kind of got the best of both worlds in a weird way. They don't have a ton of home games, but their stadiums are 3 times that size.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get the windfall from TV, and that's why the NFL is the NFL. The NBA's reliance on the gate has definitely switched, and you can see that in the way that the whole league game plans. I mean, where did load management come from? It's because they don't actually care about the night-to-night fan anymore. It just doesn't matter. It's the reason they can put so much emphasis on the playoffs. Now, places like L.A., where they're just making it hand over fist, they don't care. The gate still matters to the Jazz. I mean, they still...
Yeah, of course.
They still need to sell tickets, but not in the way that they used to. Not in the Larry Miller in the 80s way where they're put a jazz band in there and beg people to come. We need to make payroll.
Yeah, luckily for Ryan Smith, the owner of the Jazz, he doesn't really have to worry about fans showing up. They do. Fans come to Jazz games.
Well, for now.
He would be making money pretty well, I think, because of the TV deal. Everyone's pretty well insulated.
Except for he lost his regional TV deal.
But it really does help.
Which is why the cap isn't going up as much.
In fact, it's going down.
It's not going down.
Well, it's not going down. It's $1 million less than they thought.
Than they projected. So the cap is not going down.
No, it's going up, but it's not going up as dramatically as people had
by
expected.
Like $1 million. But the reason is because the cash cow that was the regional TV deal is no longer. For
Even
most
then,
the league.
It is funny. You look at $1 million less in your cap, which means $2 million because half the money goes to the owner, half the money goes to the players. So your cap is $1 million lower.
It's still a player.
That means it's still a player for sure. It is funny that with all the regional sports networks lost, or for the most part, you're still only I understand is a big asterisk here, losing about $60 million on average, from what you would have been bringing in otherwise. And clearly that money was not as rich as I think it had been at one point. The $30 million, $25 million deal per team was no longer going to be the case.
But and here's the thing, bringing it full circle, and maybe this changes if the Millers are successful and land a Major League Baseball team, and things change like they've changed with the NHL for me. Maybe I can get more into it on a day-to-day basis. But like what my guy PK does, where he's following the Filgerbacks every single day, I just can't. In March still, I just can't do it.
I am very curious, and this has always been the battle, and this is what everyone's trying to figure out is what does the demographic look like of who's watching, because are you a retired guy? Not that PK is, but the retired person who can watch 2 or 3 baseball games a day and just has it on all the time, that's one thing. That is actually not who you want to be your demographic watching.
Yeah.
We had a neighbor growing up who had polio. He sat and watched 10 games a day. That was his thing. He just sat at home and watched it. Well, that's not a demographic anyone's fighting for, doesn't go to work guy.
Baseball also has the advantage that it might be the most enjoyable sport to watch in person.
Yeah.
Not that basketball isn't or football isn't. Football was made for TV. We've had this discussion before. Football was a made-for-television product, and it is not as good in person as it is on TV. Basketball, I think, is kind of sixes. Hockey is not nearly as good on TV as it is in person, and I would say baseball is the same. It's not nearly as good in TV as it is in person. For the atmosphere, with hockey, I think it's a little different because you can't appreciate the speed on TV. It just doesn't translate. The speed of the puck, the speed of the players, all of that you can really appreciate in person. Baseball, I think you can appreciate how fast the ball's going and how hard they hit it. But the pace of baseball just lends itself to socialness, if that makes any sense. You can hang with your family. You can eat that hot dog and the beer and the warm sun and all of that makes baseball incredible in person.
Having gone to now several MLB games on vacation and an NFL game on vacation, I totally agree. If I had to pick one or the other, I would pick a Major League Baseball game every single time. Way better.
I got a better view at home on my couch with football.
Yeah.
And football's pace in person is so much slower than it is on TV.
And not intimate. Even though the field is huge, it's really not intimate. That's where hockey is great. You get there, the arenas are still small, and the ice is really big. It becomes really intimate.
Scotty G and friends are coming up next from Tim Daly Nissan Southtown. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben Show. We will be back tomorrow on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.